Hey Dreamers, I can't believe it. We are so close to Dreamers Podcast existing for 3 whole years. To celebrate this amazing accomplishment, I have decided to put together a live event here just outside of Philadelphia, May 20th. DreamCon will be an all-day event where you can meet past guests, network with other Dreamers, and play minute-to-win-it games to raise money for charity, and of course so much more. Tickets are on sale now at superjoepardo.com/DreamCon. I can't wait to see you all there. Hey Dreamers, my guest today is making his dreams come true by always challenging himself to step out of his comfort zone in the pursuit of living with passion and purpose, and I can totally get behind that, especially here on the Dreamers Podcast, because doing what I do, I don't do things because I have to do it. I do it because I want to do it, and that's a huge decision maker in my life of deciding what it is that I want out of life and what I want, and when that aligns with what I need, that's where I can make those decisions to do the things that that I'm passionate about and feel that is part of the purpose that I'm here on this earth. Dreamers, I'd like to welcome to the show Simon, and I'm gonna mess up your name, Bogdanowicz.
Good.
Wicks?
No, that
Danowicz. When you see his name, go to DreamersPodcast.com, check out his last name, because I tried to say it about 4 times before this, and I think I still messed it up.
it's a long Polish last name, and being that I actually was born in Poland, I have to keep it. I can't butcher it now. It's too late.
Totally understandable. Simon and I met at Samantha Riley, who you may remember from a couple previous episodes, and she also just took over the driver's seat like a month or 2 ago of the Dreamers Podcast. She had an event, what was it? Unlimited Influence Live out in Santa Monica, and that's where I got to meet Simon. And it's been a pleasure getting to meet. We even walked around Santa Monica at night. I got a gelato ice cream bar, which I had never had, which is awesome. So Simon, why don't you give some background about yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, yeah, like I said, I was actually born in Europe. I moved to the United States at a very young age, so no accent. I originally grew up in Michigan, so I grew up in Michigan most of my life, attended the University of Michigan, and from there, I was in their undergraduate business school program, took a job in corporate, going to Wall Street actually right out of undergrad, so just hit the ground running in corporate. I've always felt from a very young age that I wanted to just kind of pursue the ambitions I've always had in my mind beyond kind of the logical tracks of, common corporate America. And so that kind of was instilled in me, was a driving kind of passion of mine from a very young age. And it came out in a lot of different ways there. And so I always dabbled in a lot of variety of things. So, for example, in undergraduate, I joined a lot of organizations. I was in student government. I was in a fraternity. I was in the Euro conference and whatnot, all these things. And then from there, when I went to New York, even though I was working, 70, 80, sometimes 100 hours a week on Wall Street, I still had a chance, still try to find a chance to do the things I was interested in on the side. So I actually invested in one of my friend's startups, which is a competitor to Yelp, and was always looking to, find different ways to really have those internal passions feed out. And that's what really brought me to co-founding LaunchTeam today, which I know we'll get into, but it's a marketing platform for authors. And my business partner is one of my longtime friends from the University of Michigan, Jesse Tevelo. And so we're both here in Santa Monica, and it was actually very, very serendipitous of how it all came together for us to being able to, co-found LaunchTeam.
Well, that's awesome. Well, why don't you get into what LaunchTeam is all about?
Yeah, well, LaunchTeam really stemmed from, the brainchild of it is actually my business partner, Jesse. He is a 2-time bestseller. And through his experience writing 2 books, he found that the market, the publishing world is very fragmented. There's a lot of people out there trying to write their own way of the best way to put out a book and publish a book and whatnot. And nowadays, the barriers for entry are very low. The guards are down. You don't need to be some kind of influencer, somebody that's on TV or radio or anything else to write a book. I mean, the majority of the market nowadays are self-publishers. But given the majority of the market are self-publishers, there's a lot of fragmentation in the market in terms of understanding how to go about actually writing the book, putting together a book cover design, finding an editor, launching the book, and then marketing is just a mystery for a lot of authors. And so we came together, and that's the reason we founded LaunchTeam, because beyond just being a marketing platform for authors, we're really demystifying the publishing process and supercharging book launches at the same time through a combination of curated partnerships and our own in-house technology, which allows authors to build a tribe of ambassadors around them that really kind of carry their torch as they launch their book and even beyond the book. And so so inevitably we like to say that, we're a relationship company with a technology backbone, because we have, not only have we have great relationships with all the authors that we work with, which actually we have authors now in the United States and Europe and Australia. So we've gone international since last time we spoke, actually. And,
wow.
and we've met. Yeah. So it's been really good. But, it's all about having great relationships with the partners that we have that offer different services to our authors which we don't offer in-house, which could be, come in line with branding, putting together a website for your book, for your authorship, to book cover design, to PR, traditional PR, and everything else in between. So we have really strong relationships with the authors, with the partners, and the authors have really strong relationships with their launch team, because the launch team is that insiders club that you have when you want to launch or put out a product, whether that's a book, that's a podcast, that's anything. And they're the ones that want to see you be successful and support you and do everything in their power to see you win. And so that's what we're cultivating here with LaunchTeam. We're cultivating that group, that 1% of your top 1% of your email list, your insiders club, that's going to stick with you and it's going to help you really drive home your message of your book, and then amplify your reach by going off and reaching to their network and then the network. And it's really a big proliferation effect of amplifying your marketing strategy.
Right, and that's something I could definitely get behind because of the fact that, I mean, as a two-time author myself, soon to be 3- and 4-time author, it's so important to have that platform. And even like when I talk to some of my friends who wrote their first book and all, and they're like, well, what's the best way to do this? I'm like, well, to me, I would be building a platform like of your own. Like that to me was the best recommendation I can give. I mean, you can utilize other people's platforms, but at the end of the day, like, you're just one guest and then people move on to the next. This is like, if you build your own platform, that's how you can really find, they say find your tribe, but that's how you can find those people that like really connect with what you have to say, past just that one book, right? Because if you wrote one book, you probably have more than just one book inside of you, some kind of opinions or whatever it is. So, that's, and being able to have a resource to go and find out how to go and build a launch team for something, is so, I mean, that's so nice, because that's something that, some people were really selling the idea, but that would be like the $5,000, $10,000 book coaches would be like, okay, here's the secret. Call all your best friends and bother them until the ones that really want to help you are the ones that's going to stick around, and just get them to share the book as much, because it's like great if one person buys it, right? Oh, my friend loves it, he bought it. Well, yeah, but go tell 5 people. It's just like this podcast. If you love this podcast, I don't need you to write a review. I don't need you to do any of that stuff. Just tell somebody else. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so what we're doing is we're helping people understand like how to tell people, how to get them on your team, and it's always about giving more value to the people that are on your team than you're receiving. So different strategies that we always tell people to do is go off and give an advanced copy of your book to your launch team. Maybe just an e-copy, that's fine too, something that's not going to break your bank, but think of creative ways to give a lot of value to your team, and think about the book as a bigger picture into the overall business, the overall lifestyle you want to grow. So when we think of a book, we think of it in the combination with your personal brand, which includes your platform, like you said, Joe, and also your business. And we really believe that your book is the most leverageable asset you can have and you can create now to have an infinity, a profound effect on your future life. I mean, you're going to increase your influence. You're going to increase your authority. You're going to increase your niche. You're just going to raise eyebrows. You'll be able to open doors you never thought of before when it comes to anything from being on podcasts such as this one to others, to being featured on various journalism sites and blogs and everything in between, and even speaking engagements. So it's all about thinking about not only what you're trying to do with your book and how what message you're trying to drive to the people that should hear it through obviously a very, very noisy world, but also what do you want to do on the back end of the book? How do you want to tie it into the greater life that you want to build? And so that's how we think about things when we talk to each and every author here at LaunchTeam. And everyone's different. I mean, we're working with people that have already been New York Times bestsellers to those that are first-time publishers, or first-time book authors. And so everyone's expectations are different, their needs are different, the budgets are different, and so it's a very personal experience writing a book, and it's very unique for everybody. And so we understand that, and we take that in as we go off and give them guidance and assistance.
So why don't we talk about how some of the first steps you guys took to get started once you figured out, like, okay, we're going to start this thing to help people launch books. Go.
Yeah. No, it's so I think it really starts like I mentioned before a little bit with Jesse and his story. It took him about a year to write his first book. Over $20,000, of funding, spent on everything from an editor to book cover designer to an actual video for his Kickstarter campaign to raise funds and whatnot, things like that. And then from those learning experiences, he actually wrote and published his second book, Hustle, within 7 days. So you go from a year to 7 days, you've learned a drastic amount. And then from those learnings and from the great people that we've seen that have created launch teams and continue to do so, like a Michael Hyatt's, Jeff Goins of the world, Pat Flynn's and such, we're able to encompass and understand what it really takes to take somebody from concept to publish a book and then actually make that book a bestseller itself. And so, with that, I actually last summer, I was let go by my corporate job in Silicon Valley. I was a sales director, doing very well. The company's doing well. My company was purchased, unexpectedly by a European company, and they had a very different mindset in terms of the direction of the company for the future, especially the United States, being European companies. So there was a number of people that we've parted ways from. And then so I was at a really critical moment in my life thinking, I'm in my early 30s. What do I do now? I have this burning fire in me to go off and jump off the cliff and do something on my own. And I even attended a Toastmasters, the one Toastmasters I've ever attended. The whole theme was taking chances, and it was about starting businesses. And so I was like, that's interesting because I have a chance to do that now. But I kind of, like most people, don't really get the signal right away. I was like, okay, well, it was just happened to be lucky timing that I attended this Toastmasters, and that was the theme. And then next thing I know, Jesse approached me saying, hey, Simon, this was very serendipitous timing, but I'm really looking to, create, that concept that we've been talking for a while about as LaunchTeam. And I think the focus should be on the book and publishing industry. Why don't we discover a little bit more and take it from here? And so we dove into it. I actually attended a training day with Michael Griffiths. If you know Michael from SAM, or you probably heard his name before, Joe, from Sam Riley. And I attended a training day, and then I used that it was a training day on how to do referral marketing, and I used that time in a very small setting of 15 people to see hey, how many people are really interested in the concept of LaunchTeam? And I swear it must have been 80-90% of people said, hey, I'm interested, and B, I want to learn more or do something with you or help you, introduce you to people that I know that want to write a book or have already written a book, but they had a very terrible launch and they want to know if they could relaunch it or not. And just from those data points alone and that full day spent at a training day for referral marketing, I was like, hey, let's hit the ground running. And so those are the very first steps to where we became, really LaunchTeam, where I joined on board. And from there, that was early September. We had our soft launch mid-November. So from there until our soft launch, we weren't working on getting clients yet because we just didn't have enough to give to really garner a client and give value. What we were working on, what I concentrated on, was really developing partnerships and very intimate partners, not only that are going to be servicing our authors in different rights where we don't service, like the actual, the actual like PR for a book, to book cover design, to other book creation processes, the pieces before outside of the marketing arm. And so I developed a ring of content partners for that, services partners, as well as affiliate partners. And so when we hit our affiliates, when we hit our actual soft launch date, I was able to garner over 500,000 emails in combination through our affiliate partner network that we were emailing out to, just letting people know about our soft launch. And that's pretty incredible to do. So I was told within 2 months' time. And from there, we've been continuing to kind of refine and scale the business. But keeping in mind that the faster you scale, the less time you have in servicing the clients, the authors, the people that you have today. So you have to play really fine balance before you start growing that piece and then start growing your own team.
Yeah, I mean that does speak to the market of being able to find a niche that, like, hey, there are people that don't just want to write a book and be like, I wrote a book. They're just they want to actually capitalize on it in whatever niche or whatever service or wherever whatever they're doing. It's important to them enough that they want to make that move to have a launch, and maybe don't want to spend that kind of level of money like I was saying earlier, like the $5, $10, $15, $20,000 to like find out all the tactics that somebody else took the time or paid somebody else to find out on how to do it, right? Because if they don't know, they don't know what they don't, unknown type thing. So
yeah, but yeah, Joe, I want to stop you there, because while we do have the majority of our authors are nonfiction, the fiction market is even more competitive than nonfiction. There's a lot more fiction books than nonfiction, so the marketing is even that much more important. So even if you're thinking of writing a fiction book, and maybe it's just a solo fiction book, or you're turning into a series or a trilogy, the marketing arm is even more important just because there's more competition. So we definitely take that into account. And if there is an end game with the book or not, or some kind of back end opportunities or not, whenever we speak to any author, because it's like I said before, it's very different. It's very personalized for every single person we speak with, and it should be. No one wants to read the same concept in the exact same tone and voice, and from every single person. They want your unique story, your unique spin on things, and in a fiction book even more so, like your spin, your unique story in the fiction world. So.
Oh, definitely. I mean, with especially with fiction, like you're trying to create a brand in and of itself, right? I mean,
yes.
unless you're already somebody who has their own following and stuff that you've built over platform, or you've been on TV, or you know what I mean, like you've already been there. It's not only do they have to take a bet, like the reader or potential readers have to take a bet on you because you're nobody to them, but they have to take a bet on that the story that you're writing is something worth investing their time in, right? So it's that like double edge of like, not only because at least with a nonfiction book, it's like, okay, it's a biography or something like that. It's more about you or about the term, like attaching it to something that they already know, right? Like a word that they already know, or a phrase that they already know, that they could be like, oh, that I'm interested in that phrase, I could do that. But it's like, oh, mystery novel, like who done it type thing. It just I could see where it's definitely a vastly different type of marketing scheme that you're trying to convey, because you're trying to convey a whole story. It's just like a trailer, right? I mean, it's
Right.
one thing if it's a sequel to something everybody knows and loves, but when it's an unknown IP or what was IP even stand for? Something property, intellectual property.
Intellectual property.
Yeah. It's like you're trying to like make people care about it,
Yeah.
So definitely difficult. Simon, how did your family take it when you told them that you were going to start up LaunchTeam?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Well, most of my family still lives in Michigan. At least my parents do. The rest of my family's in Europe, so we speak a little bit less. But my parents were definitely worried, a bit anxious. They're used to a different kind of mindset. They're used to the mindset of being in one or two corporations for their entire life, working 20, 30 years, and then retiring, and that's it. And so with this new age entrepreneurial economy, it really flips a switch on just opening up new opportunities, new doors for people like you and I and everyone else, and connecting with the entire world on top of that. So you're able to have relationships and partners and clients all over the world, something that our parents really couldn't have back in their corporate jobs, or couldn't easily have back in the 70s, 80s, even part of the 90s, whatnot. So they they were very cautious with me. They're always saying like, hey, you have other opportunities in case this doesn't work out. Just make sure you don't miss out on another opportunity for this. And they just don't. I feel they didn't really realize, the absolute potential we have here in LaunchTeam. On the other hand, my wife was very supportive. She always saw the fire in me. She knew I had the drive and the passion, and she knew Jesse very well too. I mean, we all live in Santa Monica, within 2 miles of one another here, at least as the core foundational team. And so she's like, just go for it. This is the right time. We were just recently married, and just take off, and I think you'll fly. I'm like, that's great. And then my brother works at Amazon, not in Seattle, but he runs he helps run one of their facilities for Amazon Prime fulfillment center, and he's always been a go-getter in his own right. And he ran for city council at under 21 years old, and he would have been the youngest city council member in all of Michigan, and this and that. So he was really along the same wavelength as my wife. Is like, hey, if you have something that you love and passionate about, and there's a market there, and it's more than just a hobby, go ahead and go for it. And he's always, they're both, and everyone now is always trying to see how they can help and what they can do. So it's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it can be tough because people care about you, right? And if they don't understand what you're telling them, that's scary, right? It's unknown for them, and they feel like because it's unknown for them, it's unknown for you, and in some ways it is, but that doesn't mean it's scary to you just because it's unknown. So yeah, that's awesome though that you have the support.
Yeah, I'm very lucky and really blessed to have that.
Simon, what's been the biggest roadblock for you with LaunchTeam?
That's a great question. I think probably the biggest roadblocks are probably yet to come. We're pretty young, but very fast growing. And I guess you have to really think about it. That probably is the biggest roadblock in just scaling and just kind of being able, thinking about if we're growing too fast in one area or another. And if you grow your client base to a point where your platform can't support it, obviously that can really wipe away a lot of things. So it's the biggest roadblock, I guess wouldn't be roadblock, but the biggest thing that we always are thinking about is like how to play the fine balance and walking the line between what we have today and where we're going tomorrow, and the right way to scale and grow our audience and our partners and everything else that we do. And so how we're, really overcoming that is by just having complete transparency in the business and what's going on, where we are with everything, and how we need to, adjust our mindset and our focus, depending on the needs of the overall business. And, we're always thinking of, obviously, being a relationship company, like we said, with technology backbone, we're always thinking about, putting the authors first and what is going to drive the most value for everyone that we work with, our authors, partners, everybody. And so having that, at the core of what we stand for really helps in refocusing and thinking of how to make shifts, even if we have to walk away from one thing that we really need to do that has to be put off on the back burner just because priorities are different, depending on what is going on at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to realize that, and I don't know that everybody realizes it, but that there's a difference between growth and scaling, right? Like you're growing your user base, but if your user base does grow too fast, and you don't have the tools there to at least be that minimal viable product or service for them to utilize in the beginning to keep them around, that's when you start to lose people and you lose their attention, and then you also run into the threat of of competition coming into the space, right? Because you're dropping the ball, so where you're dropping it, somebody else can pick it up. So it's definitely got to be difficult to balance that, because website technology doesn't happen overnight, especially if what you're trying to do doesn't necessarily exist yet in some way, shape, or form that you could repurpose for it.
Yeah, you said a beautiful word there, competition. And I'm glad you said it, because that's one thing I don't often bring up. But to be honest, we really don't see ourselves as having any competitors. And the reason we don't is because the industry that we're operating in is so large that this the pie is there for anyone for the taking. And then there's so much collaboration and collaboration in the space that it's easy to kind of figure out you may compete in one regard in some capacity with somebody, but then you have all this value to offer on the other side of the coin, and vice versa, that you just, we always look at every relationship being what kind of value can we provide them that's going to be for the betterment of our audience, of our authors, and everybody that we work with, and vice versa. And then they think of that as well. And anywhere that we overlap are areas that we'll just kind of try to stay clear from, because at the end of the day, there's a new book being put out every 8 or 9 minutes, and that's just in America alone. So you can imagine just the quantity, the amount of people out there that are interested in writing a book. I know the last that I read was 80% of America wants to write a book sometime in their lifetime, but when it comes to it, less than 1% actually do. And so it's about finding that that 80% or 79% that don't, and helping them and telling them that, hey, if you really want to do it, you can. And then there's all these tools and all these, the support network that will help you get there. And so it's in that 79% of America, obviously it's, tens and tens of millions of people that we really think that we can hit the mark with and help.
Yeah, no, that's also, and the other thing, to remember, especially in business, but specifically in relationship building for businesses, you're not going to hit the mark with everybody, right? You can't necessarily hit it with everybody. So it's great that you don't see yourself as having competition currently. I'm sure that won't be forever, especially once you start having real success. I'm sure somebody's going to want to come along and do it differently. But when it comes to that relationship aspect of it, that's the thing. It's not everybody gets along to, hits it off the same way. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're trying to do, especially when it's on that relationship side, not just hey, you wanted an iPhone, here, this is the product. You know what I mean? There's no relationship there. It's just a cold piece or this cup. You know what I mean? I don't know the people who put this cup together. They're not giving me business advice or any kind of advice or trying to be my friend or help me, or I'm trying to help them in some way. It's just a cup,
Yeah.
So, but no, I think that's awesome that you're putting such a high focus and a high value on the relationship side of it, because it is that network of people that you'll be, not just connecting with yourself, but connecting other people with other people that, can create all kinds of amazing things and, honestly, experiences that you probably haven't even accounted for yet, because you haven't got, they just haven't happened. Those experiences haven't happened yet.
Exactly. So, why not keep all the bridges open and not burn any behind us at the same time? And we know that that's going to pay dividends. And in the future of this entrepreneurial economy in general, I mean, it's as the online world gets more crowded and everything, it's all about authenticity and storytelling, right? You know, Joe, it's all about carving out your piece of the world with your own voice and your own authentic self. And so with that, you know, that really transcends into, you know, books and book marketing too. And so somebody can have the most amazing book, but without knowing how to reach their audience in a very authentic way that's going to resonate with their target audience, not the world, but who they're writing for, then it's going to fall on deaf ears. And that's exactly what we're solving.
So, Simon, growing up, what was your childhood dream?
Yeah, my childhood dream, believe it or not, was to be an architect. I played with a lot of Legos when I was young. I was always just looking to buy or looking to get the next present of Legos, whether it's a train set or the skyscrapers, whatnot. And it was really just just building buildings and just building kind of like the landscape of the world. And so I really carried that on until I was applying for colleges, and I was thinking of, you know, what are some of the best architecture schools? And I come to find out that architecture in itself as a profession in the United States isn't as well regarded as in other countries, Europe for that matter. My very close childhood friend, who I call my cousin, she became an architect, and she was a couple years older than me, and what she was working on and talking about was way different than what I was looking at from a core curriculum here for architecture. So I decided to jump into general studies and then moved on to business from there. But I think just that mindset of building has always carried on in not building buildings, but building a business. And so it's I know some people, you know, are lucky and they have their childhood dream that they carry on throughout their entire life, and they are that architect or they are, you know, that journalist or photographer, what have you, whatnot. But underlying in every childhood dream, you have deeper ambitions that you don't understand yet, and cravings as to why you have that dream. I think mine was because I wanted to build something for myself and, you know, kind of drive and build my own destiny. And that's why we're building this company versus, you know, me actually building buildings.
No, I totally agree. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that's what we find here on the show is exactly what you just said. So, nothing surprising there. Actually, are you a Minecraft fan?
I am not, no, but I do know it. I do know about it, and I have watched a few YouTube videos of it.
Oh, I am very surprised, just because of the fact that, you know, loving Legos so much. I mean, it could be called, you know, Lego Craft if they really wanted to. If they wanted to. So Simon, what do your dreams for the future look like?
Yeah, I mean, my dreams for the future, yeah, obviously involve LaunchTeam, and then, you know, just allowing us to grow in a space and in a way that we can really serve the needs of everyone internationally. And so that would be, you know, actually having different, you know, author teams, you know, author, you know, success teams, and, you know, around the world, servicing people in every capacity in different languages, and helping them understand how to not only create and publish their book, but also utilize their book for their grander vision, fiction or nonfiction. And so my dream involves, you know, just building the business in a great but, you know, right way to make that happen. Building our technology out. So when you're thinking about creating a launch team, it's beyond how you're thinking today. It's beyond, you know, touching your close friends and family, the Facebook groups and forums that you're in, your circles of influence. The launch team can actually be sourced from people that are interested in your niche of writing, and even sub niche, and that have, you know, either written or read reviews before and would be interested in what you have to say in your message in your book. And so that would be, you know, a combination of sourcing different launch team members from other launch teams within our platform, and also sourcing directly from like the likes of Amazon and Goodreads and other platforms. And so that's kind of the technology we're building. And then from there, you can actually have more so some validation tools where you can see like how people are, amplifying, what people bring to the table as part of your launch team. What's their reach on Twitter, on Facebook, et cetera. What are they actually, how are they participating in your launch team, and what kind of value you're giving them, and having that become more systemized and automated. But the core lesson being like, it should never feel like your launch team now or in the future is ever doing something just to do it. Like, you're giving them a lot more value they're giving you. You're giving them maybe a behind the scenes of how you can launch your own book for a reader that's interested in doing that, or some quality time, a Q&A session with you, even an invite to your launch party, whether that's virtual or in person, things like that. So you're really thinking beyond and crafting a relationship that you're going to be able to take on from your actual book launch well into the future and beyond, hopefully, to other book launches and other things that you're pursuing as a person.
I think it's important what you said there about like there's so many things, like even with this podcast, right? There's so many things I know I'm supposed to be doing with it to help grow it, right? Like crafting the email to go out right before the to the guests, but before the show goes out, with like tweets and all that. And it's just like, yeah, that's all awesome if you have the time for it, B if you have the people to do it, I mean, it really comes down to those two things, right? So this is mostly time. But it's just like the same thing with LaunchTeam, where it's like, yeah, there's so many things you could be doing to do with your launch team, things that you may not have even thought about, right? Aside from just like reaching out to everyone and be like, hey, my book's out. It'd really be awesome if you could go buy it and leave a review on Amazon or on iTunes or whatever. There's a lot of little things that you can do that make big differences. Maybe it's a 5%, yes. 2%, 8% difference, but they start piling up, and you do all those little things, and before you know it, you have this awesome, this awesome launch of a book that you never thought that you'd be able to A, have, B, launch and not be sitting on like 100 copies in your garage.
Exactly. And it's about, giving people, your team members, just little things to do. You don't want to overwhelm them. Everyone has a day job. Everyone has other things that they're focused on. So giving little things to do, but at the same time giving a lot of value in return for the little things that people are doing for you. And so that's when the creative juice should start flowing, and that's when you as a person should be thinking about, what's really going to resonate with the people that care about me the most? Like, how would they love to engage me in what I'm doing? And then from there, you'll be surprised at things that people come up with, which is great, which is like everything from giving a piece of artwork, to select team members that are most engaged, all the way to going off and giving raffles of like $100 Amazon gift cards for the three people that are helping me out the most, with extending my reach and also writing Amazon reviews and things like that. So it's limitless really in the thinking of what you can do and how you can engage your launch team. But at the same time, you don't want to overwhelm anybody at the same,
Oh, certainly. Yeah. And you definitely can if you don't realize that, and you might not even realize that you're doing it, right?
Right.
So Simon, how can people get in touch with you and the launch team and all of that?
Yeah. So you can actually get in touch with me most directly through my email. It's Simon, SIMON, at mylaunchteam.com. That's all one word. You can check us out on our website, mylaunchteam.com. I also have Facebook. It's just my first and last name. Totally reach out. I'm not at my limit of friends yet, so feel free to add me as a friend, as I know some of you guys are out there. And then and also I have Twitter as well, but the most direct way is most often email.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely have those in the show notes at dreamerspodcast.com.
And I wanted to say one more thing, that if there's anybody, if you are thinking about writing a book, or you already have a book that you're looking to launch but don't know how to market it, definitely feel free to reach out, and I would gladly offer just a free consultation call to hear more about your book project and what you have to offer. And, that's for all of you listeners listening right now that have made it in through the end of Joe's podcast. So thanks for listening.
Definitely. Simon, is there any last thoughts you'd like to share, though, before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you, Joe, for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to see you again. Hopefully I can make, DreamCon or have you out here in Santa Monica or whatnot. And we'll definitely be hosting you on our radio show turned podcast here soon as well. So just want to thank you and thank everybody for listening. And hopefully you got some wise words and some inspirational thoughts as to why you should be pursuing your own dream.
Well, thank you. And I really hope that you're able to make it out to DreamCon. I'm looking forward to getting back out to Santa Monica and Anaheim at some point. It'll probably happen in 2017. I'm just not sure when yet. So
what's in Anaheim?
I don't know, actually. I just was told I should go there. That's all.
I mean, Disneyland's there, so yeah, maybe. Yeah, it has to be Disneyland. Yeah.
It is. It totally is. So anyway, thank you so much for taking the time, Simon, for coming to be on the show, and I look forward to having you on again, and I look forward to being a guest on your show as well, in the not too distant future. If you enjoyed this episode, please, you don't need to leave a review. You don't need, I don't need you doing that stuff. All I need you to do is tell a friend and tell them to go to dreamerspodcast.com to learn how to subscribe. That's it. That's all. That's all I ask. If you're enjoying all the stuff that we're doing here, and yeah, DreamCon. Oh man, May 20th. If you don't know about it, go to superjoepardo.com/DreamCon to find out more. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be raising money for 2 charities this year, celebrating 300 episodes of the Dreamers Podcast and 3 years of the show at the same time. So, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you so much, Simon, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Dreamers Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Dreamers Podcast. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Dreamers Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Dreamers Podcast, please send an email to j@jpar.co. This podcast is copyright 2014 by jpar.co.